Hello. I am Kaci Brown, and welcome back to Amplify My Impact. I am thrilled to be talking about the subject that we are introducing today and to share some updates as we continue to go along in the progression of relaunching the podcast, introducing and organizing the Amplify community, and all of the integrity partners that we're going to be just sharing and lifting up. I think if there is one thing that I absolutely love doing is lifting others up and celebrating the way that they serve and being that connector in a way that there's problems and solutions out there that I am not necessarily the one that is the end all be all solution. So I love collaboration. I love connecting with other experts, and over the years have just built an incredible, I think, just integrity-centered, impact-driven community network where we have so many people that absolutely love working together. And for instance, last weekend I went to an event in Orlando that really, I was invited by a friend that I have known for 8 years, and her expertise is sales. So we've done incredible collaborations over the years and referrals back and forth for her zone of genius and my zone of genius. And it was a great reminder, and that's sort of what I want to dig into the podcast today, is a great reminder of the way that you connect and the way that you communicate. One of the topics over this weekend's event it was just such a great, refreshing reminder. We dug into a lot of DISC and the communication styles. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a spoiler alert of what we're going to be digging into with communication styles, particularly in this episode, but and how I carry it forward. And I want to make that connection for you. And I have obviously a very leaned in, empathy driven, connection oriented communication pattern naturally. So other communication patterns have been one of those things that I've really had to work at over the years. And if you're familiar with DISC, then you realize, that there is the high D's where, that represents dominance, and you have the I's that are sort of like the energetic and influential people. Like they love fashion and dressing, and usually you'll be able to recognize an I just based on the way that they show up in the world. They have just an exuberant energy of a little bit more of extroverted. There are some I's that are introverted. It's interesting the dynamic that starts to play. And then the S with the supportive. And when I first took my DISC assessment, I was high IS. And that is where, my empathy comes in. I'm very service oriented. I really kind of have these unwritten rules with myself where I got to create or I get to create win-win-win scenarios in everything that I do in business and in life, where it's not just enough for me to benefit. I need to create a ripple effect of impact and driving things forward. And then you have the C types that are highly processed, highly regimented, methodical, the people who are highly organized in your life. And I have another event that I'm coming up on this week, AI Marketing World, that backs up right against a high level summit event. And why am I talking to you about all of these events and communication styles? Because I think communication is one of those things that it is a priceless skill set. And in a lot of environments, sometimes it's viewed as a soft skill set. But in the world of marketing, and especially where we are immersed with AI, and there's a lot of AI content and even AI avatars, conversation and connection is even more important than ever before. Being able to listen and communicate not only in your own natural communication style, but also realizing that other people hear and interpret things differently. And so I know that was a lot of build up to share the platinum rule. I want to talk about the platinum rule. And a lot of us grew up and were very, very familiar with the golden rule, whereas it's essentially do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and which is a great ethos and a great operating system. But I feel like we get to a point where we can also level up our operating systems. The name of the game in a lot of business and life success is just that, not only the mental foundational fortitude, but how are we continuing to grow and expand outside of our comfort zones? And that's one of the things that we talked about on one of the more recent episodes, is expanding outside of your comfort zone. And in today's episode, I really want to get into expanding out of your natural communication zones. And that's where the platinum rule comes in. So the platinum rule is a reframing of the golden rule, whereas you treat others the way they want to be treated, which means we have to put a little bit more effort in understanding and knowing and paying attention and leveling up our awareness and being fully present and realizing not everyone communicates in the exact same communication style that we do. We may think we're communicating clearly, but the other person, it might still be gibberish. To someone who, to put it into DISC terms, and I do have a reference chart here that helps me kind of translate it. If you are familiar with the other personality traits like Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and things like that. So I definitely did some research to be able to create the through line for everybody. But if you think about like a high D, a more of dominant type of personality, they are just super clear and succinct. Sometimes someone like me communicating with someone like that, I may be way too detailed or way too in the emotional side of why I'm making this communication or argument or presenting this information. Think of it as like, give me the Cliff Notes version. Those are kind of like the dominants, where it's like, it may not even be the Cliff Notes version. This is literally like, what are the top 3 bullet points I need to know to make a decision, right? They move quickly. They typically like lead in a way that is decisive, make decisions quickly. So when you start realizing who you're working with and the way that they operate, you communicate differently. I've even had to learn a different way to communicate with my husband. He is very, very organized and methodical. So I would say I'd love for him to take the test now, which is probably what a lot of our family is going to spend some time doing to dig in, because Hudson was with me at this conference, and it was so interesting where he was, going through, and he's like, that's similar to McKaylee or Noah or Dad or you, and so this is a skill set that it just continues to serve you in everything that you do. And I'm a huge fan of foundational principles that carry us forward in every aspect of life. And communication is one of those things. If you think about, you're listening now to the podcast, like there's clear communication, and we listen to the news, we listen to trainings, we communicate with our kids, with our partners and spouses, with our clients in business. The way that we communicate is the way that we communicate. But I think the beauty of the platinum rule is going beyond with like, this is the way that I communicate, deal with it. It's communicating with the intent for it to land, for it to be understood, for it to be heard in the way that you intend for the other person to receive it. So a little bit more awareness of the audience and how you're communicating. And, in the online world, sometimes we don't know our audience, who's on the other side of that sales page or the funnel or even this podcast. So it's important to kind of figure out creatively how you can incorporate these styles. That's where the Cliff Notes or the show notes come into play. That's where the checklist of implementations come into play for those that are the high C's and that are really process driven. So I'm really, really having a lot of fun with this. And I think I kind of got off on a little bit of a sidetrack there. So let me kind of reroute back to in communicating with my husband. He is one of those where it's like, you're saying too many words, Kaci, or you're saying the same things in multiple ways, because I'm seeking clarity and he is really just seeking, like, let me give you an answer and move on, right? And so early on in our marriage, I got my feelings hurt quite a lot because I didn't feel like I was being seen and heard and understood. But being able to communicate that with him to where it doesn't escalate into a fight where it's like, I need to be heard this way, and equally with him, I need to be communicated with this way. And that also goes into like verbal processors, visual processors. And this is just a beautiful time to remind everyone, especially in the online business world, is we have different learning modes, the way that people learn and connect with us. Some people are visual, some people are highly audio. So you're describing something, same thing with when you listen to audiobooks versus when you read books on a page. Some people can have an incredibly vivid imagination, and others struggle to fill in those gaps of details to figure out oh, well, what was that vivid shade of purple, or what did it feel like to have that cool ocean breeze on your face? So a lot of that, just to share, the way that you communicate is incredibly important. The way that we give our intention and commitment to communication. And that's why I absolutely love the platinum rule, and I've taught it to my kids. I've shared it with my clients. I incorporate it in workshops. And, while I was outlining future podcast episodes, this became one of those things where it was like, this would make a really great episode to really just dig into the communication style. So I want to invite you to get curious in discovering what your communication style is, what sort of like the majority of people that you work with. I really like working backwards from dream client avatar. And, so like the majority of the people, they will see themselves in something that we've said or shared, or the way that we've spoken in our tone and the way that we communicate. So our natural communication style and tone is very easy to fall into. And then we can start figuring out, okay, well, what do other personality types and communication styles need? And so for me, it's leaning in and realizing, okay, some people need a direct tactical implementation of everything that I've explained, but here is legit how to apply that, or here is how to go and do that. And that's not to say that people that communicate in the way that I do don't also need that too. It's going to benefit people like us. I have found when I'm trying to do something, that if I have a clear 1, 2, 3, I can absolutely knock it out, because it is easier for me to get lost in the details or to get distracted if I'm in a longer process. So if there's too much information coming at me. So I think it's not one of those things where it's an either or. As business owners and marketers, it's a both and when it comes to communication styles. It's like, lead with the one that you have a natural strength and tendency towards, but also have that commitment and awareness for what other people need and how we can serve at that greater level. So I do have some of those kind of translations for those of you, because I have some friends that do the Enneagram. I have some friends that do the human design. And I kind of want to translate that, because this just was so particularly top of mind for me this weekend in the conference, just diving into DISC. And I would really, really, really encourage you, if you're listening, to go through a personality assessment, even if it's been a while that you've done. Because it's interesting when you become aware of something, it's easier for you to start kind of seeing how you can improve communication in other quadrants. I am not naturally a dominant personality at all. But I can totally roll my sleeves up, get in there, and get people organized and moving and in action. Like, that's the one thing that I feel like is the throughput for all of my products, services, and offers, that I am very action oriented. But I'm action oriented because I care about the results of the person. So my driver is making sure the people that I serve have the clarity and the confidence and actions. So it's like a byproduct to get what I ultimately want and what fuels my personality style. And knowing that has really helped me improve everything. So let's go through this really, really quickly. So on the disc, D is for driver, dominant. I is for influencer, expressive. S is supportive. It has amiable on here, but like agreeable. Like everything that they do is they try to keep the peace, right? C has conscientious and analytical. Like they're hyper focused. Like you have the people in your life that are hyper focused on how we're going to get this done, staying on task. But you know, they can get a little bit lost in the minutia of the details because they need a very detailed plan, and everyone else might be ready to go, right? So it's just realizing, even on team communications, we need all of these personality types, because could you imagine if we were a world full of just high influence and easily distracted, but like we're just having fun in everything that we do, but we're not necessarily moving the ball forward down the field. So let's dive into driver and dominant. The core drive essentially is a results and control, right? The typical energy, fast-paced, decisive. I actually, when I was first starting my business, I loved being around high D's because it helped me be more decisive. It helped me have a visual anchor point of where my growth opportunities were and that I could emulate, right? So comparable traits, when you look at other personality types, it's similar to the Enneagram type 8. That is the challenger, or the Myers-Briggs ENTJ or ESTJ. All right. Moving into the I, the influencer or more expressive, they're looking for connection and recognition. I think of Farah. She loves acting. She loves being on stages. She loves playing roles. And there is an energy that is ignited there. So if you think of people like that who love the connections with the people, who love just fun, enthusiastic, outgoing, are typical energies. This is going to be similar to Enneagram 7, the enthusiast, or ENFP or ESFP on the Myers-Briggs. So I just find this fascinating, and I think this is a great point to pause and say, what I've realized over the years is it's not a one and done. It's not a perfectly fit in the box. There's other traits that either we've learned through our environment or coping mechanisms, or just because we know how we operate naturally, we've really had to focus on certain aspects of other traits to put into play for us with processes and systems. Especially if you're ADHD, you know how you are, so you know these things that you need to put into place. So I would definitely want to encourage everyone that when you are learning your personality and communication style, it's really, really important to not force yourself into staying in that mold and staying in that box. It's more about being 100% more aware of how you naturally communicate and how you can put more effort into other areas of communication or organization to better serve people. And I just kind of showed my hands there, because ultimately everything for me comes down to serving. So if you are someone who it's being more decisive or results oriented, it's you're literally building your communication style and all of the systems and processes in your life towards that one goal that you lean towards naturally, right? So moving on with the S's, this is supportive and amiable. You have what their core drive is: stability and harmony, keeping the peace. These are the peacekeepers. Don't like conflict. They're patient, they're steady, and they're loyal. That's one of the things that I would say I get myself in trouble, because sometimes I'm loyal to a fault, to my own detriment. And that's probably really, really helpful when I was younger to be even more and more aware of that. So with S's, like, boundaries are highly, highly important. Boundaries are important for everybody, but I think knowing your personality style is definitely even more important when you can be an overgiver or a people pleaser. So this is similar to Enneagram 9, the peacemaker, or in Myers-Briggs, ISFJ or ESFJ. Okay. And let's see, coming into the high C's, the super analytical and conscientious, they're looking for accuracy, quality, like repeatable results. These are usually like your systems and operations people. Like, they haven't met a checklist or SOP that they did not love, right? Now, I will say I've learned to operate in this quadrant because I'm married to someone who is just like very methodical, like incredible, like processing when it comes to what we do and how we keep the kitchen clean, how like little things, and it's so funny. I always laugh at this point because it's those who rearrange the dishwasher after you loaded it, right? That's literally what I told my husband. I'm like, I know exactly. And his love language is interesting. So is acts of service, and it is acts of service in the way that he wants to receive them. And so, it is those little things. So all of these layer on top of it. And so it does always circle back to the platinum rule. It's understanding, knowing yourself, but with the commitment of realizing you have blind spots and there's an opportunity for us to understand others in a deeper way, right? So, high C's, their core drive is accuracy and quality. Their typical energy is they're careful, they're precise, and they could be a little bit more quiet. I have met some ambiverts. It's so funny. My husband is an ambivert. It's like the chameleon. Sometimes they can be totally comfortable in social settings with people they know, and so it's the levels are always different. And I've found it interesting over the years that there's introverts and extroverts, but it doesn't mean everyone always follows the playbook, right? So this is similar to Enneagram 1, the reformer, or Myers-Briggs INTJ or ISTJ. And I know this was just a kind of quick overview, but my intention is really just to whet your appetite enough for this to be something that you get curious about and that you dig into a little bit, and you notice about yourself and the way that you communicate, and then also how others communicate. And ultimately, I feel the more self-aware we are in the way that we operate, in the way that we kind of live our own lives in the world and in our environments, it's so much more fun when we start to understand and realize that there might be a certain way that we're saying something that isn't quite landing right. Arguments and disagreements and miscommunications improve and are eliminated. And I think we're overall just a more considerate, more considerate society. It goes beyond just selling our products and services, but people appreciate you taking the time to try to understand them enough to communicate with them in a way. And like the ripple effect of what this creates, it creates better opportunities, better JV partnerships, better collaborations, definitely better negotiations. This is everything that we've talked about here. If you use this in your contract negotiations or your project negotiations, you are definitely going to be, a lot of people do this naturally because they're watching, they're pattern observers, pattern of behavior, body language, all of this type of stuff. So it's been really, really cool to see this. And even in my upcoming interview that I'm going to be sharing soon, I sat down and I interviewed with Farah, and quickly I realized, and I probably even could have done a better job had I been even more aware, my communication style versus her communication style, my goal for the interview versus her goal for the interview. And that is just, it's a great opportunity to always to learn, expand, and grow. And it's just one of those skill sets that this weekend was such a great reminder of, I have the knowledge of it, but am I applying it day in and day out? And that's kind of what I really wanted to talk to you guys about today on the podcast, because as we relaunch, as we settle in and, anchoring and sharing our vision for a community, it is one of those things as, when we talk about habits of winning, communication is absolutely one of the habits of winning. And then, how can I get down on a more granular level? And I guess, this is one of those episodes. It's very, very, informative, but a little bit more tactical on how you can identify your communication style and how you can put it into practice in your marketing, your copy, your sales, your customer journey, all of the things. Because I'll tell you right now, if you incorporate in a customer journey the platinum rule with completely going at it from a customer's standpoint and our client's viewpoint, and not like being able to fully take yourself out of it with all of the biases that we bring to the table of what I would want, how I would like this and that, but really to look at the patterns of the people that we serve, and then you build a product just for them. It's a fantastic reminder. A lot of times we talk about, it's not about you, it's all about them. But the question is, are we putting the knowing into practice? So I hope I've encouraged you with this episode to put the knowing into practice. And I'm excited to continue to talk about these topics and dig further, and just all of the things that we're going to get to do with this podcast together in the community. So I'm really, really excited. Thank you for being here. Thank you for following along. Please definitely share, subscribe, and review, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye.